Anime Vanguards just lost nearly 50% of its player base, and I know that 50,000, 46,000 players still seems like a lot, but it's kind of like seeing Blox Fruits. This is just an example, by the way. Go from 1 million players to around 300,000 or 100,000. Like, yeah, 1 million players to 100,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but if you put it into perspective, that's like a very big drop, okay? What I'm trying to tell you is Anime Vanguards losing 50% of its player count is a pretty significant thing. Now, there's a lot of things I'm going to talk about in today's video, so hopefully you guys watch till the very end. Now, if I'm not able to speak properly today, it's because I'm feeling kind of sick, but I really wanted to make this video, so yeah. The first thing that I'll go over here is the most obvious one and probably the elephant in the room, which is that the previous two updates that they released were not well received. The worst updates, a lot of people are calling them, ever since the new dev team has stepped on, right? Update 3, 3.5, 4, and 4.5 are all well-received updates, but Update 5 and 5.5 have not really been well-received. And the charts kind of show this. I'm going to be showing you guys a chart right here. Now, in the past 3 months right here, I'm going to start around here in February 24, 25, February 25, which was around the time the Bleach Update 4 released. You can notice that even though the update released in February 24, they didn't really lose that much players. You know, they didn't really lose that much players here. And as a matter of fact, they were actually gaining players around these times right here. Even though the update released all the way here, they were still gaining players, right? And then they did experience a drop, to be honest. But then they experienced another increase when solo leveling released in March 14. What's crazier here is solo leveling released in March 14, update 4.5, but they continued to gain nearly 2 times their player count in the span of a week. Now, another crazy thing here, they announced update 5 somewhere around this time right here, and then if you take a look at the chart right here, right, they didn't lose nearly as much players as they lost from update 5 to current day than they did here. So update 5 was released somewhere around here, update 4.5 released all the way here, but look at this. The chart did not show a pretty significant drop. But then from 5, which is one of the worst received updates, 5.5, which is again another not well received update, they're dropping pretty significantly actually, as you can see in the chart right here. Essentially what I'm trying to say right here is that 2 updates were not very well received, and because of that, players are losing their appetite with Anime Vanguards. You know, that's really just how it is. If you fail to receive or if you fail to deliver on an update, it will turn people off, and a lot of people are just gonna hop off, probably look for some other game like Anime Ranger X or something like that, or Anime Saga, or maybe Grow a Garden if that's the type of game you want to play. But yeah, basically those 2 updates were not very well received, and because of that, the player count has dropped pretty significantly. Now in some announcements though, there's something that I really want to mention as well here. FICEP mentioned that they have been working on basically removing more bots. And because of the fact that they have removed bots, their player count has dropped significantly. I'm not even going to include this part right here because I don't think we can all chalk it up to bots, right? I don't think it's fair to chalk the decrease in players to just, well, we banned some bots, you know, so it's expected. No, there is a botting problem in Anime Vanguards for sure, but I definitely don't think that, you know, the problem with the player count dropping was mainly caused by them banning bots. It's definitely not the case. It probably did play a role though, it probably did remove a bunch of players, but I still don't think, you know, them reaching a peak of 100k and losing nearly half of that to update 5.5 or current day is all accredited to bots. It's definitely because these 2 updates were not very well received, and a lot of players really don't like these updates. Now, another thing that I really want to mention and talk about here is Update 6, right? I made a video about Update 6 being the most controversial update that Anime Vanguards has released in a long time, about a few days ago, a week ago from now, pretty much. And I think a pretty big reason why, if we check the chart here, from the wait in Update 4.5 to Update 5, that even though they didn't lose that much players, I think one of the biggest reasons here is because players were hyped for Update 5 basically because it was a Dragon Ball update, essentially. And I think the reason why we're seeing a pretty big drop right now in player count is obviously update 5.5 was not really well received and was also not really that big of an update, but also because a lot of people are not really interested in Guilty Gear. And I already mentioned this in previous videos. A lot of people that play these tower defense games only want to see their anime characters, only want to see their favorite anime characters. So if you're going to be adding an update that a lot of people do not know, or if you're going to be adding an anime update that a lot of people do not know, a lot of people, no matter how good the units are, they will dislike it. Obviously, most of us adults or most of us people who, know how to be patient and wait will probably not care, but a lot of the players playing Anime Vanguards are kids. Okay, that's just how it is. And these kids will be judging the book by its cover and say, "Oh my god, it's an anime that I'm not really aware of, an anime that I'm not really familiar with. I'm probably not just gonna care and probably just wait for update 6.5 or update 7 or something like that," right? I think a lot of people during these times right here, obviously they were grinding for Songjinwoo Vanguard, but I think they were also grinding for, rerolls to get Monarch on the new characters that's going to be releasing in update 5, right? But I think that's not going to be happening for update 6 because there's a lot of people that are not interested in the new Guilty Gear characters, which is pretty unfortunate because I think update 6 is going to be one of their best updates yet, because PvP seems to be pretty insane and the Guilty Gear characters also seem to be pretty insane, but unfortunately that's just not how kids view it, At the end of the day, hype plays a very big factor in how well these games will perform. Like, for example, if you take a look at a game like Arise Crossover, which pretty much capitalized on the success of solo leveling, it reached around 300,000 players. If they released Arise Crossover at some other time, other than the time they released it in, which was around the same time solo leveling got a massive, worldwide popularity, Arise Crossover probably would never reach 200k players. And what I'm saying is, hype plays a big factor in how well these updates are received and how well these games are received. But obviously, I still do think that it's a bigger issue that update 5 and 5.5 was not well received to why the, player count is dropping. Also, on top of that, there's other games that have been released around this same time frame, which is probably why a lot of people are also trying those games out while waiting for update 6. But yeah, I do think that update 6 will be a pretty great update, but in all honesty, and this is what I'm gonna leave with, I'm pretty worried for how update 6 will perform because again, it's not a mainstream anime. I myself know that it's gonna be one of the best, if not the best, because of PvP. But unfortunately, the 5 and update 5.5 updates have turned a lot of people off, and it being Guilty Gear, which is a niche anime or niche franchise, have also turned a lot of people off, unfortunately. That's gonna be it, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and yeah, peace out everybody.